The woman you're with right now, or the woman you want, or the woman who walked away last year and is still living rent-free in your head. She is walking around with a list of needs inside her that she has never shown to anyone. Not her mother, not her best friend, not the therapist she's been seeing for 3 years. And definitely not the men she's dated, including the one she said she loved. This list is 7 items long. 7 specific, non-negotiable hungers that every woman carries with her from adolescence until the day she dies. And here's what's going to hurt. Almost no man meets any of them. Not 1, not 2, 0. The man who remembers her birthday doesn't meet them. The man who pays for every dinner doesn't meet them. The man who says he loves her 3 times a day doesn't meet them. And she knows it. She's known it her whole life. She's lived inside that hunger for so long that she's stopped expecting it to be satisfied. She's accepted that love, as she was taught to understand it, doesn't actually feed the part of her that needs feeding most. And then, every once in a while, a man shows up who does meet them. Not all 7 at once. That's almost impossible. But enough of them. Enough that something inside her that has been asleep for years wakes up and starts paying attention. And when that happens, that woman becomes incapable of forgetting that man. She can date others. She can marry others. She can try to convince herself she's happy with lesser men. She will still think about him 20 years later when she's washing dishes at 11 p.m. and wondering how her life got so quiet. Today, I'm handing you those 7 needs, not to weaponize, to understand. Because Niccolò Machiavelli, 500 years ago, mapped these exact dynamics in his study of how human beings bond to each other. He wasn't writing about women, but what he found about the architecture of human attachment applies to female psychology with an accuracy that will make your head spin. By the end of this, you'll know what she's been starving for, and you'll know exactly how to become the man who feeds her. Need 1, to be seen through her performance. The first need is the one that underlies everything else, and it's the one men miss most consistently, because meeting it requires a level of attention most men have never learned to pay. Every woman performs, every single one. From the moment she wakes up and decides what to wear, through every interaction she has during the day, to the moment she falls asleep, she's performing. Not because she's fake, because performance is survival. She learned, by the time she was 12 years old, that the world treats her differently based on how she presents herself. So she curated. She refined. She developed a public version of herself that would navigate the world with the least friction and the greatest strategic advantage. That version is not her. She knows it's not her. She carries her real self underneath the performance, and that real self is where she actually lives. But almost nobody ever meets the real self. Almost nobody earns access to it. Most men spend their entire relationship with her falling in love with the performance, and she watches it happen with a quiet sadness that she never names. Because the man who loves her performance doesn't love her. He loves an act. And acts can be replaced. Actresses are everywhere. The man who meets this first need does something extraordinary. He sees through the performance, not by trying to strip it away, not by demanding authenticity or insisting she drop her guard, by paying enough attention that he notices the moments when the real self leaks through, and by responding to those moments with recognition rather than retreat. Machiavelli wrote about this quality in his analysis of leaders who inspired the deepest loyalty. He observed that the leaders who bonded their followers to them most completely weren't the ones who gave their followers the most. They were the ones who saw their followers as they actually were, beneath the social roles and expected behaviors. The follower who was seen in his full complexity became devoted to the leader who had seen him, because being seen that way was so rare that losing access to it felt like losing something essential. Your first job, if you want to meet this need, is to look. Actually look. Not at the performance, at the cracks in the performance. The moments when she says something real and then immediately covers it with a joke. The moments when a genuine opinion escapes and she tries to soften it afterward. The moments when her eyes tell a different story than her words. And when you see these moments, you don't interrogate them. You don't demand more. You simply respond to what you saw, not what she said. You answer the real statement underneath the social one. You see the fear underneath the humor. You take seriously the opinion she tried to retract. And you do this consistently, over time, until her nervous system begins to register something it has rarely registered before. This man sees me, not my act, me. And the moment she registers that, a door that has been locked her entire life begins to open. Not all at once, slowly, carefully, with testing, but it opens. And what's behind that door is the real woman. The one nobody else has ever met. The one who has been waiting her whole life for a man perceptive enough to find her. Need 2, to be taken seriously without being treated as fragile. The second need is one that the modern dating world has completely inverted. Men have been taught that taking a woman seriously means being endlessly gentle with her, treating her emotions as precious, never challenging her, never disagreeing, never pushing back on anything she says for fear of upsetting her. This isn't taking her seriously. This is treating her as fragile, and it's the single fastest way to kill respect in a relationship. Every woman needs to be taken seriously as a full intellectual and emotional equal, not as a delicate creature who needs to be protected from your real thoughts. Her opinions need to be engaged with, debated with, sometimes disagreed with vigorously. Her thinking needs to be pushed against. Her reasoning needs to be tested. Because this is how she experiences being taken seriously, not through flattery, through engagement. Machiavelli observed this dynamic in the political relationships between princes and their most trusted advisors. The advisors who felt most valued were not the ones whose opinions were always accepted. They were the ones whose opinions were actually wrestled with, debated, sometimes rejected after genuine consideration. These advisors knew their thoughts mattered because their thoughts were treated like they mattered. They weren't patted on the head. They were taken seriously enough to be argued with. Most men, out of a misguided sense of chivalry, do the opposite with women. They nod along. They agree even when they don't agree. They soften their genuine positions to avoid conflict. And women, in response, feel a subtle but corrosive lack of respect from these men. Not respect from the woman toward the man, which is its own problem. Respect from the man toward the woman. Because when he won't engage her thinking, when he treats her opinions like delicate flowers that can't be disturbed, he's implicitly communicating that he doesn't consider her capable of handling real intellectual engagement. The man who meets this second need is different. He disagrees when he disagrees. He pushes back when he sees an inconsistency in her reasoning. He offers his own perspective without apology. He takes her seriously enough to treat her ideas the way he'd treat the ideas of anyone he respected. And here's what happens when he does this. She comes alive because she finally has someone to actually think with. Someone who isn't performing agreement to keep her happy. Someone whose engagement with her mind feels real because it includes the possibility of genuine disagreement. This doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean being contrarian for its own sake. It means being present enough in the conversation that your actual thoughts show up, not just the thoughts you think will please her. And a woman who is engaged with by that kind of present mind begins to feel something she rarely feels with other men. Respected, truly, fully respected, as a complete human being whose ideas matter enough to be challenged. Need 3, to feel her own desire reflected back to her. The third need is one that operates almost entirely below conscious awareness, because most women don't even realize they're starving for it until they finally encounter a man who meets it. Every woman has desire, real, layered, complex desire, not just sexual, though that's part of it. Desire for experience, Desire for feeling. Desire for moments that wake her up from the routine of daily life. Desire for a kind of aliveness that most of her days don't deliver. This desire gets suppressed in most women by the time they're adults. Not because anyone told them to suppress it directly, because the culture around them consistently treats female desire as something suspicious, dangerous, or embarrassing. Women learn early to dampen their own wanting, to settle for what's offered rather than pursue what they actually crave, to perform contentment with a life that's adequate rather than demand a life that's alive. Most men compound this suppression rather than relieving it. They offer safety, which is fine, but they offer safety at the cost of intensity. They offer reliability at the cost of aliveness. They offer a comfortable existence that slowly, quietly, kills the part of her that needed something more than comfort. The man who meets this third need is different. He sees her desire, not the performed desire that matches what men usually want. The real desire, the one she's been suppressing for years. And he reflects it back to her, not as obligation, as permission. Machiavelli understood the power of this kind of reflection in his analysis of how leaders inspired their followers. He wrote that the greatest leaders didn't impose their will on their people. They recognized their people's own suppressed ambitions and gave them permission to pursue those ambitions. The leader became the mirror in which the followers saw their own highest potential reflected back, and then the leader helped make that potential real. You can do this for her, not by telling her what she wants, by noticing what she wants and responding to it as though it's completely valid rather than something she needs to be embarrassed about. When she mentions a trip she's always wanted to take but probably won't, you take it seriously. You don't dismiss it as a fantasy. You engage with it as a real possibility. When she expresses an ambition she's never told anyone about, you treat it as credible. You don't humor her. You ask real questions. You help her think through how she might actually pursue it. When she reveals a kind of intensity she usually hides, you match it rather than recoiling from it. You let her know, through your response, that her full range of feeling is welcome in this space. And something happens inside her that happens almost nowhere else. Her desire, which has been sleeping, wakes up. And because it wakes up in your presence, it becomes associated with you. You become the man who allowed her to want things again, who gave her permission to be fully alive, who didn't ask her to be smaller, quieter, more manageable than she actually was. That man is irreplaceable, because he's not offering her a relationship. He's offering her back to herself. Need 4, to be challenged without being diminished. The fourth need is subtle but absolute. Every woman needs a man who will challenge her growth without ever making her feel small in the process. This is a razor's edge. On one side is the man who never challenges her, who accepts everything she does and says without question, who treats her as though she has nothing to learn or develop. This man makes her feel unseen in a different way. He doesn't believe in her enough to expect more from her. His acceptance, which feels loving, is actually a kind of giving up. On the other side is the man who challenges her with hostility, who criticizes her, who uses her weaknesses as ammunition, who makes her feel diminished whenever he points out something she could do better. This man creates a climate of anxiety that eventually poisons everything. The man who meets this fourth need walks the blade between these two failures. He sees her growth edges, the places where she could develop, the patterns that limit her, the habits she falls into when she's not at her best, and he addresses them, not as attacks, not as criticisms, as observations from someone who believes in her higher capacity and isn't willing to let her settle for less than it. Machiavelli wrote about this exact quality in his analysis of great teachers and mentors. He observed that the mentors who produced the greatest results in their students weren't the ones who praised their students constantly. They were the ones who held their students to a standard that the students hadn't yet reached, and who kept holding that standard with patience and belief until the students rose to meet it. This is what she needs from you. Not as her teacher, in a paternal sense, as her equal, who believes she's capable of more than she's currently showing and isn't afraid to say so when it matters. When she's about to make a decision that reflects her fears rather than her values, you say something, gently, but clearly. You name what you're seeing. When she falls into a pattern that undermines her, you point it out, not with accusation, with recognition, as someone who sees the full potential she has and is alerting her that this moment isn't expressing it. When she doubts herself in ways you know are unwarranted, you don't just reassure her, you remind her specifically, with evidence, of why her doubts aren't accurate. You push her back toward her own competence. This is challenge as love, and it's rarer than diamonds, because most men either won't challenge her at all, or challenge her in ways that feel like attacks. The man who can challenge her from love, consistently, becomes something her soul has been searching for without being able to name. A growth partner, someone whose presence in her life makes her larger rather than smaller, and once she has that, she can't go back to partners who don't. Need 5. To be emotionally led without being emotionally controlled. The 5th need is one of the most misunderstood in modern relationship discourse, because the language around it has been corrupted by ideologies that have nothing to do with what women actually need. Every woman needs a man who can lead emotionally, not dominate, not control, lead. There's a vast difference. Emotional leadership means that when the emotional weather of the relationship gets stormy, when conflict arises, when uncertainty appears, when fear enters the space between you, you don't panic. You don't collapse. You don't make her responsible for managing the emotional atmosphere. You steer it with calm, with confidence, with the settled presence of someone who has done their own emotional work and can now hold space for hers. This is different from emotional control, which is when a man tries to dictate what she should feel or punish her for feeling the wrong things. Control is domination dressed up as leadership. Real leadership is something else entirely. It's the ability to stay regulated when she's dysregulated, to remain present when she's withdrawing, to respond thoughtfully when she's reacting emotionally, not to fix her, to demonstrate that the relationship has a steady center even when she temporarily doesn't. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the quality of leadership that inspired loyalty versus the quality that inspired rebellion. He observed that leaders who tried to control their subjects through force and intimidation eventually faced revolts. Leaders who led through embodied steadiness, who demonstrated strength without imposing it, who created stable environments in which their subjects could thrive, generated loyalty that endured across generations. Your emotional leadership in the relationship creates exactly this kind of environment for her. An environment where she can have her feelings, even her messy feelings, without worrying that those feelings will destabilize you, and therefore the whole relationship. An environment where she knows, without having to test it, that her moods don't dictate your moods, where her occasional storms don't turn into joint storms, where her breakdowns can happen because your breakdowns aren't simultaneous. This gives her something she rarely has access to: permission to be fully human without having to manage her humanity around a fragile partner. Most men, when their partners get emotional, either try to fix the emotion immediately or get emotional themselves, which means their partners have to suppress their own feelings to take care of them. Neither response meets the actual need. The man who meets this need just stays present, calm, available, but not reactive. He says fewer words than most men say in these moments. He asks fewer questions. He just remains steady and warm, allowing her to move through whatever she's moving through, trusting that the movement itself is healthy and doesn't require his intervention. And she learns over time that this man is a safe harbor in the storms of her own internal life, not someone who calms her storms. Someone whose steadiness allows her storms to pass without damaging anything important. That kind of safety is addictive because it's so rare, and once she has it, she'll build her whole life around keeping it. Need 6. To be desired as a complete being. not a collection of parts. The sixth need is one that most men fail at without realizing they're failing, because the culture around them has trained them to desire women in a specific fragmented way. Women are usually desired as collections of parts: her body, her face, her sex appeal, her charm, her kindness, her usefulness. Each part is appreciated, each quality is complimented, but the whole human being underneath those parts is rarely the object of the desire. Women feel this fragmentation constantly. They feel men desiring their appearance while not really wanting to know who they are beneath it. They feel men appreciating their kindness while taking it for granted that it will always be available. They feel the pieces of themselves being consumed while the whole of themselves remains invisible. The man who meets the sixth need desires her as a complete being. Her body matters, yes, but so does her mind, her history, her fears, her ambitions, her contradictions, her future, her silence, her strangeness. He's not desiring the parts of her that are easy to desire. He's desiring the entire complicated human being, including the parts that are harder to love, the parts that don't fit into neat categories, the parts she herself has struggled with. Machiavelli's observation relevant here comes from his writing on the difference between superficial alliances and deep ones. Superficial alliances, he noted, were based on specific mutual benefits. Each party wanted something from the other and traded for it. These alliances ended the moment the specific benefits disappeared. Deep alliances were based on something more fundamental. Each party valued the other as a whole entity, including parts that weren't immediately useful. These alliances endured through crises that would have shattered the superficial ones. Your desire for her needs to be deep in this sense, not focused only on what you want from her, focused on who she is, the full complexity of her, even the parts that don't serve you directly. This looks like genuine curiosity about her inner life that doesn't need to convert into anything useful. Asking about her childhood not to understand her better for strategic purposes, but because you actually want to know her. Remembering her stories not as data points, but as parts of her you now carry. Appreciating her difficult qualities, not despite the difficulty, but because the difficulty is part of who she is, and you want all of who she is. When this kind of desire is directed at her, she feels seen in a way that fragmented desire can never produce. She feels that you want her, the complete her, not just the parts of her that are convenient for you. And this kind of being wanted goes beyond attraction. It becomes a kind of existential recognition, the experience of being loved as a whole person rather than consumed as a collection of useful or pleasing features. Once she has this, nothing less will satisfy her, and you become the reference point against which every other man in her life, past or future, is measured. The only one who wanted all of her. Need 7, to be chosen daily, not permanently. The seventh need is the one that ties all the others together, and it's the one that most men fail at most consistently because it contradicts everything they were taught about what commitment means. Most men think commitment is a permanent decision. You decided once, at the beginning of the relationship, that you wanted her. That decision, once made, is considered final. You don't need to keep making it. You don't need to keep expressing it. It exists, it's permanent, and it should be sufficient for the rest of the relationship. This is not what she needs. This is actually the opposite of what she needs. What she needs is to be chosen daily, not once, not at the beginning, not on anniversaries and special occasions, every day, in small ways, in ongoing ways, in ways that demonstrate that your commitment is not a static decision you made once, but a living, ongoing, active preference you keep renewing through your choices. Machiavelli wrote about this principle in his analysis of political alliances. He observed that alliances that were considered permanent quickly became taken for granted by both parties. They stopped putting effort into maintaining them. They stopped investing in them. They assumed the alliance would continue simply because it had been declared permanent. And these alliances almost always weakened over time, becoming shells of what they had been, until they finally collapsed in crisis, because neither party had been actively renewing them. Alliances that were renewed daily, through ongoing mutual investment, through repeated active affirmation, endured, because both parties knew they had to keep earning the alliance. Neither could coast on the initial declaration. The living nature of the